Okay.
I'm a little dark, but at least we're not pixelating. All right, so we're going to get started now. Diana, thank you for joining me today. I've been working with you this past week due to something you sent to me about your experience while navigating not having a home here in Montgomery County. I'd like for you to tell us how this kind of started. I know a few months ago you had a career with PNC Bank, I think it was,
Yeah.
and whatever you're willing to share up to where you are now would be great. So you can go on and get started.
So, firstly, thank you for having me and helping me so far. So I am married. I have a 2-year-old son. I gave birth to my son about a month before the pandemic. We've always been very like self-sufficient. My husband and I both have always worked. We never really counted on relying on any government assistance before, but like everybody else, the pandemic hit us pretty hard. My husband lost his job. I also lost my job. At the time, I was a receptionist for a small remodeling company. They are like a husband and wife owned, and they were very small. So when the pandemic hit, they lost everything. So during the pandemic, we had gotten our apartment in Germantown, which was they call them the Pinnacle, I believe. I think that's what it was called. Just like most people, when we heard about the COVID rent relief, we applied for COVID rent relief.
I'm sorry,
Unfortunately,
you applied when? Tell me when, please.
the end of 2020, so I would say around November of
Okay, so
2020.
the end of 2020. Okay, and how
Yeah.
long did it take for you to hear back from them on that relief?
Once we heard back from them, it was actually had been a year now since we had applied. So we got a call back, I would say October 2000, uh, yeah, October 2021.
So let
Uh,
me ask a question really quickly. What were you doing between the time you applied in October to get answers on your application?
so at the time, they didn't have a portal. So it's not like we could log in and check. What they were doing is that they let the community know, and they were also contacting property managers to let them know about the programs. And at the time, it was a form that you had to fill out, and then you had to email the form. When I applied, the landlord had applied on our behalf. And at the time, the steps that they had were that if the landlord applied, the tenant had to apply. And then I guess it would get sent to the county, and then it would get processed that way. So the property manager and I were both calling the Department of Health and Human Services, the Germantown location number, but we weren't getting any answers because everybody was working remotely and their voicemail didn't leave a number to contact anyone that was working from home. So we weren't receiving any answers. The property manager was able to access something online. She didn't give me quite detail into what exactly it was that she could access, but she had notified me that she was moving forward with the eviction process because the application wasn't moving anywhere.
And when did she let you know she was moving forward with the eviction process?
February. So it had been about
February of
4,
2021.
yeah.
Okay,
So
I will have to check, Diana, but I'm fairly certain that evictions weren't allowed in Montgomery County in February 2021. So if that's the case, that was illegal. So when she let you know that, what did you do next?
Um, at that point, I let her know that I would see if I could contact anyone because I wasn't sure how to navigate through this because they didn't really give you any steps on what to do if answers weren't answered. So I was trying to find places to contact in regard to the COVID rent relief. I was relying more so on things that were published on the internet and on Google, since wasn't able to hear from anyone that worked directly with the county. But I received my eviction letters, well, the letter from the court where we were scheduled for eviction, but the court date kept getting pushed back. I'm assuming because they weren't, I guess, moving forward with eviction. So the court date just kept getting pushed back, pushed back. Um, at that point, I was really frustrated because you can't, so the county wasn't doing walk-ins for the Department of Health and Human Services. The number that they had listed online to call, nobody was answering it because everybody was working remotely. So unless you were someone that was already receiving services and was working with the case manager and the case manager was calling you directly, you didn't have a number to call anybody. And even then, when you would receive a phone call from the county, they would call you restricted so that you wouldn't have a callback number to call them back.
So your story, from what I've been hearing from people, is not unique. That's what's troubling me the most is that we had the rental assistance money, but so many people fell between the cracks and did not get the help that they needed. What led to you leaving the Pinnacle?
So we had left Pinnacle because so we voluntarily left, and that was our mistake because we were being basically harassed by the landlord. They would come every single day to bang on the door and leave notices on the door. So my husband and I, at that point, we felt like it wasn't very safe for us, especially having a baby, to be there anymore because there was a few incidents where maintenance actually had keys and walked into our unit because we wouldn't answer the door.
And that's illegal also. So you never
Yeah.
went to court. You just started getting harassed daily
Yeah.
and you went ahead and left. Now, when you left, where did you go?
So when we left, we put our items in storage, and
Mhm.
my mother at the time was living in Damascus. So we went with her. But the
Mhm.
issue was that we moved all of our items out um at in the middle of the night. And when we went back to the apartment in the morning, about like 7 hours later, the locks were changed, which was
Illegal,
also illegal. Yeah.
illegal. And you didn't
So
know any of this.
I didn't know any of this, but I knew that the change of locks without an eviction notice wasn't legal. So I went right across the street because the apartment complex is directly across the street from the Germantown police station. So I walked over there and I asked to speak to a police officer, and I let the police officer know that I wasn't served an eviction. Evictions currently weren't taking place. I didn't have any paperwork stating that I lost what is it? I lost the apartment at all. And because they had also even changed the mail lock. So he told me that there wasn't anything he could do, but that he would walk with me to the leasing office. And we went to the leasing office. The assistant property manager said that she had went to court that afternoon, and that afternoon the court granted the eviction. So in front of the officer, I said, is there a way that I can be given those eviction papers, because I didn't receive anything and there wasn't anything taped on the door or anything. And usually
Right.
I read online that it said that when you are evicted,
You
when
get a
the court
notice.
grants eviction, you get a notice, you get a
Yeah.
30-day notice, and then I think a 10-day notice. I
So it
wasn't,
sounds like these people just played a lot of games and they knew you didn't know the process and they did a whole lot of things that were illegal.
yes.
How did you end up going into shelter and how did you get to where you are now?
So I didn't go into shelter until about 4 months ago because I was working for PNC Bank, which was paying me great. So I was able to give my mother money to live with her. But my mom, and because she was also living with my sister, they decided to sell the house that they were living in and move to Georgia. So at that point, we didn't have anywhere to go. So we moved into the extended stay. But in July, I had stopped working for PNC because I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, which was severe enough to the point where I couldn't work anymore because at that point they had sent me to work remotely. So I was working full time inside of the branch, but in January they had sent us to work remotely because they were closing the in-store locations. So once I was sent to work remotely, being at the computer with my arthritis, it was really bad. And they weren't able to accommodate me to have enough breaks because the only breaks I would get would be my 30-minute lunch break. And because the bank was so stumped up with calls because they merged with another bank, I wouldn't even get 5 minutes between customers. So from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m., I was nonstop on the computer.
A question for you. How long were you at PNC before you had to no longer work there?
So I was with PNC since September or no, July of 2021.
And you
And then I
left
stopped
in,
working July 2022.
did you happen to get a doctor's note to give to the job?
Yes, I had a doctor's note and I had documentation, but the protocol that they follow is that so when you have accommodations that need to be met, it
Mhm,
has to go through a certain department with
mhm,
HR.
mhm.
So they said that the wait for that was 6 to 9 weeks to hear from anyone, which is where
Interesting.
my job failed me.
Interesting. Because I'm automatically thinking you should have been eligible depending on how long you've been there under FMLA. So that's another piece, but we're going to focus on Montgomery County systems. So you were no longer able to work. You were in a shelter in Montgomery County or extended stay.
Yeah, so that wasn't funded through the county. That was out of pocket. I was paying $2,700 a month to live there. So I was there for about 3 months. But at that point I wasn't working, so I was using all of my savings to afford it. And it wasn't until I we were on our last dime that I decided to go to the crisis center that night. I explained to them what was going on. They placed me at the Red Roof Inn for one night until I was able to go to the Department of Health and Human Services the following day. I went there the following day and then they placed me in the Red Roof Inn um, until they said that there would be a place in the shelter for us to go
And you were at the Red Roof Inn for how long?
for 2 months.
And what was that experience like?
Absolutely terrible. The Red Roof Inn is, to start off, it's a completely unsafe place to even put people with children because of the amount of illegal activity that's going on there. um, when you are, and this is speaking from personal experience and from hearing from other families that I came into contact with while being at Red Roof Inn. If you are placed at Red Roof Inn or you are placed at a hotel while you wait for a shelter and you are assigned a caseworker, 95% of the time they will not reach out to you.
The case manager won't reach out.
Yeah, the
When you
case
try to
manager
reach
will,
them, what happens?
they don't answer. My specific case, I was assigned a caseworker who was given to me 3 weeks after being placed in the hotel. So for 3 entire weeks, I wasn't receiving answers from anyone. The only information I knew was that I was homeless. I was at Red Roof Inn, and they gave me 21 days to stay there.
Wow. Okay. So how did you get from Red Roof Inn to where you are now? What happened in the interim?
So every 21 days supposedly you get renewed while you're there. So as long as you're keeping contact with the caseworker that you were assigned to, you get renewed 21 days. So about 3 weeks into us being there, my son got very sick. And the reason why my son got sick was because of how dirty it was in the hotel room, and because of other guests that were smoking cigarettes in front of our room. I expressed my concerns to the caseworker. She didn't care. I expressed my concerns to her supervisor. She didn't care. And then it wasn't until I reached, her name is Denise Anderson, which is the head of, I guess, homeless services. When I reached out to, it took a while to get to speak with her, but when I finally reached her, I let her know that my son was severely sick and he wasn't getting better because of the environment that we were in. So she said, she was irritated, but she said that she was going to find a way to get us into a shelter instead of offering to relocate us or anything, which is fine. Sorry.
That's okay.
Which was fine, but that she would let us know. So about 2 weeks ago, I like a last minute, 2.5 weeks ago, last minute, I received a text message from Miss Sharma, which is my caseworker, who said that we would be going to Green Tree Shelter in Bethesda.
Was that a plus? Is that something that would have been good for you?
I don't know. I wasn't given answers.
You just knew you were moving from Red Roof to Green Tree. And what happened?
And about a day later, my son got very sick. I took him to the pediatrician. They swabbed him and we found out that he had COVID. So the pediatrician told me that, I explained to the pediatrician we were supposed to go to a shelter next week. She gave me a letter and told me to give it to the case manager because we can't go to a shelter if the baby has COVID. He was very symptomatic. He had high fevers and everything. So I let her know that my son tested positive for COVID. She asked for documentation. I gave it to her. And then the following day, we woke up to security at our door saying that we had to leave. I called the caseworker and she notified me that we were told that we were going to isolate until this Saturday on Christmas Eve because my son tested positive for COVID. And in the email, Miss Felicia told us that we would be receiving 3 meals a day. We weren't allowed to leave our room, but that my husband was granted permission to leave.
Why couldn't you leave your room?
They claim that people who test positive for COVID have to fully isolate. So they're following the guidelines of the CDC from 2020 when COVID first was a thing. The CDC, as I understand, no longer recommends that. That is very odd. What happens if you leave your room? Security says that you will lose. So when you get here, you don't get room keys. So security escorts you to your room. And if you open the door for someone or you walk out of your room to get some fresh air, security comes and they tell you that you aren't allowed to go back into your room and that you then lose county services.
So you're in jail?
Yes. This is like,
and if you walk out of your room, you lose county services.
That is what security says to you.
Did you question that?
This is a reminder. Angela's call.
Why?
I didn't question it because when security came to the room, and by the way, they were very hostile and very loud. I immediately called the case manager. The case manager was hearing everything. And the only thing she could say to me was, stay in your room. You can't go anywhere.
So this is where I came into the picture. After I read your story, I reached out to you. And I wanted to come by to see for myself the conditions that you all were living under over at Motel 6.
Removed property
I also took it
name.
upon myself to ask security why you all were not permitted to leave your rooms. I also spoke to your case manager and got her supervisor's number to ask her why you could not leave your rooms. After I left the property, can you tell me what happened?
So once you left the property and you questioned them directly and you confronted them directly, they came to the door with 2 keys and said, "You guys can go out now."
Okay.
It wasn't until the supervisor received a voicemail from you. It wasn't until you contacted my case manager and questioned her as to why we were being treated this way. And it wasn't until you came and spoke to security directly where all of a sudden we now have permission to come and go for Motel 6.
Tell me about your room at Motel 6. I know you mentioned there's no stove, there's no refrigerator, you lost medicine. Tell me how that has been looking for you.
Yeah, so when we got here, like you had said a couple minutes ago, it was like jail. It was exactly like jail. There were 2 beds, a table, a toilet, and a sink. That was it. There was no refrigerator, no microwave, no stove, nothing. I have a 2-year-old baby who still relies on formula because she has an allergy. So we weren't even given a singular bottle of water.
Okay, what does your food look like daily?
So we are given 1 single meal to split between us 3.
What do you mean, one
And
single meal?
so what we were told by Miss Thompson was that we would receive 3 hot meals, snacks, and water and juice for the day. So what they do is every single day at 1 p.m. they come do bag drop-offs. So they come once every 24 hours. In the bag, it has the entire time we've been here is 1 single bag, and inside of that bag it's like a carry out container that comes with 1 portion, like a very small portion of whatever it is that they bring. Like the first day that we were here, we got this tiniest portion of rice and something that had meat in it and a piece of bread and 2 bottles of water, a singular mini bagel, and a chewy bar. And that was supposed to be breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a family of 3. The
next
following
time
day,
you get a bag, please send me a picture of the contents.
okay. The following day, it was 1 single hot dog, like 3 pieces of carrots, 2 water bottles, a single bagel, a single mini bagel, and 1 chewy bar.
So now where we are is you were told that you have to leave, right?
Yes. So
Now tell me how that's been going.
So once our isolation period ends on the 24th, which is Christmas
Saturday.
Eve. Yeah.
Receive.
So 2 days ago, I contacted the caseworker to confirm if we were going directly to Green Tree Shelter as soon as we leave Motel 6. She said, yes, as soon as you check out in the morning, you are supposed to go directly to Green Tree. Yesterday I was trying to contact her because I don't know where to go, what to expect, who I need to talk to, where to go for intake. She doesn't tell me anything. I kind of have to navigate through the small things that she tells me and just kind of figure it out on my own. So she told me she wasn't answering yesterday. I finally got through to her. And I asked her if she would be able to give me information on what to expect on Saturday. She sucked her teeth, took a deep breath, and hung up the phone. I sent her a message with the same thing I repeated to her over the phone. And she said, Green Tree isn't doing intake during Christmas week. You have to wait until New Year's to do intake. So then I said, so where are we supposed to go on Saturday, after Saturday? She said, I don't know.
Your case manager from Montgomery County said she doesn't know what you're supposed to do after Saturday?
Yes. And then I said, you're my case manager. How don't you know where your client is supposed to go? And her response was, I'll let you know when I find something out.
So you're living in a state of anxiety, not knowing if you're going to be sleeping in your car or on the street as of Saturday morning.
Yes.
You are not the first person to share with me that you get hung up on. No one has answers. However, I have heard stories of some phenomenal case managers, and this is not what's happening with their clients. And I can't figure out what the difference is. You mentioned there was a family in a very similar circumstance as you that was able to access rapid rehousing, correct?
Yes.
Now, how long have you been in the system?
How long have I been in the system?
Yes, working with case manager and being in the hotel and the shelters.
It's been almost 5 months now.
I know you also asked for help for your husband to be able to access work services or help with finding work, correct?
Yeah. So when she came to visit us at Red Roof Inn for our intake, she scuffed when we told her that he wasn't receiving any income, but that he was very eager to work. He was really looking for a work program, because we were told that people who receive TCA go to something called Arbor, which is something that they have to.
TCA is temporary cash assistance, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if they get TCA, they go to Arbor, and what happens at Arbor?
At Arbor, they have people who work with them, and they have computers that, so basically they have a team that helps them find work.
And that hasn't happened for you or for your husband, right?
So the case manager told us that isn't services that she can help us with. So he kind of has to, she was like, go on Indeed, go on Snag a Job, go on Google and find things there. And that was the only advice she had for us. And another issue that we had was when she came to do intake, the only two services that she offered us, and said that the only two services that Montgomery County was giving homeless families was one single payment of $8,000, but we have to forfeit our hotel room that moment, and we can no longer receive any services within the county, or the SHARP program, which is a program that pays your first month's and security deposit. And she said that for 3 months, they would pay 60% of the rent. But the only thing is that if you are to get approved for something that is above their quote unquote market value rent, they will only give you the market value rent for as a security deposit and first month's rent. So if you were to get approved for a 2-bedroom apartment, that is about $1,850 a month, which is the normal rent price in Montgomery County, they will only give you $1,500.
And right now, I don't know of anyone that's charging rent that's that amount. That's a decent, safe, and sanitary place to live. So where we are right now is we don't know what's going to happen after Saturday, nor does the professional that gets paid to help you navigate this system know what's going to happen. So you have less than 48 hours to figure it out. Is that
Yes,
correct?
and on
Mhm.
Christmas Eve.
And you are a person that's disabled. You have a son that appears to have some level of special medical need, and a husband that's willing to work but has not been provided any services to help him become gainfully employed. So there are some significant gaps here. I want to thank you for telling your story. I am going to process this and begin to send this out to the people that I work with. Of course, I don't work for any of these entities, but I am hopeful that when people actually hear what's going on, that they begin to look a little more closely at these systems, because your story is not unique, which is shocking to me as a person that doesn't work for the county, why I'm getting all of these stories. But secondly, can we minimally find out what's going to happen to you in the next couple of days? So that's my goal here. And I just want to say thank you. Of course, I'll keep you posted if I hear anything. Definitely going to share with some contacts, and we will continue to be in touch as we navigate through this situation. Are there any other things that you would like to share before I close out the interview?
Um, no, I really want to thank you because it honestly has felt like I've just been going around in circles and dead ends, and it feels like I'm screaming into a void asking for help, and
Mhm.
everyone's just looking at me like I'm crazy. Nobody's giving me answers. I'm trying my best to advocate for myself, for my son, for my husband, but it's like nobody cares. And
Mhm.
you are the first person that I've met and came across that has looked at me and has said, I'm going to help you. I haven't had any support being in the county. I would think that me having a case manager, I would have some type of support. I don't have anyone. I feel alone. I feel hopeless. And the fact that I haven't been receiving any help makes me frustrated, and it almost makes me hate myself because I feel like I'm not doing enough for my son. And it's very it honestly has brung a lot of depressive feelings for myself, because as a parent you want to do the best for your son, and I feel like I'm not doing anything. I feel hopeless, and I'm trying my best, but it's like I'm not doing anything. And I just feel like I'm just another statistic. I'm just another number in the county. And it's very frustrating because I want to, build a foundation for my child to grow up in a safe environment, at least, or at least a home. It's very frustrating and emotional being in a hotel because it's like nobody cares. It's like you're in a hole and everybody's looking at the hole and they're looking at you, and they just don't care. And it's like, I know that the county has programs that will help you, but it's like they're not helping. And I just want a safe place for my son to go to at night. It's the holidays. My child isn't gonna have a home to go to for the holidays. He doesn't have any Christmas presents this year, and he's at the age where he says, I want to go home. But where is home? We don't have anywhere to take him. These hotels that they put us in are disgusting. And it's for a child, it's completely unsafe.
You mentioned you have a mouse now, right?
Yeah, there's a mouse in our room and nobody seems to care. My
I'm going to pause
vehicle,
now. I just,
my vehicle,
I
when we
don't
were
know.
living at Red Roof, my vehicle was vandalized. Somebody came and tried to break in my vehicle. I'm homeless. I literally don't have I barely have enough money to survive. And now somebody breaks and tries to break into the car. And they're not, they say that they're not responsible. And all I had asked was to be placed somewhere that was at least medically safe for my child to be in, because my son developed very bad bronchitis from how dirty it was, and the air quality that he was breathing in. He was basically breathing in secondhand smoke from the other guests there.
Yeah, when I came to see you the other day, the first thing I smelled was marijuana smoke, and it's very,
Marijuana.
yeah, yeah. That I'm just gonna say thank you again because this is your story, and you have granted me the privilege of hearing your story, but also to share with others. So in hopes that we can begin to correct what is so very wrong here. And I'm sorry that you're going through this. I wish I could do more. I'm, doing whatever I can. But my hope is that we can get the people that are supposed to do the work to do it. Thank you again. And I'm definitely going to be reaching out to some folks after this. I am so sorry, but we're gonna work on it together.
Thank you, Tiffany. You have been the only person that I felt like has seen me and grabbed my hand and said, we're gonna do this together. And you advocating for my family has brought other people to write encouraging comments. And if it weren't for you and those encouraging comments, I would feel so defeated. Before you came, I felt like I was like by the people that are supposed to help us as a family. I felt like they stomped us down and crushed us and treated us like we were anything. The way that I feel like that we've been treated is how people drive by panhandlers on the side of the road. They're
Yeah,
asking
yeah,
you for help and they just turn
yeah.
the other way. They don't care.
And I guess I can understand that if you're driving by, but if you're paid to do this work,
Yeah.
I can't understand that, and I can't support my tax dollars going to that level of service. Um, I'm going to do the best I can, and we will continue to talk. But don't give up hope. I hope I can help give you some hope and hopefully come to a resolution for you and your family. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.